Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show for another episode of Leeds United discussion here with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Mr. Jason Booker as well. Straight off the bat, good morning, Sporting Journey. Glad to have you with us. And if you're watching along, please do comment and get your likes in on the video and get subscribed to the channel as well. Jason, how are you, my friend?
Very well, mate. Very well. Enjoyed the week of a bit of a quieter week on the football front because we've not had a midweek game. But it was nice to enjoy this week a bit more relaxed on the back of 4 points and a little bit of I feel a little bit justified again after the kind of ups and downs that we've had over the last 2 months, let's say. So yeah, been good, mate. Been good.
Yeah, it's been one of them weeks, hasn't it, where it's felt kind of pretty much drama free. The storm of Farker, is it going to go? What the board going to do? That's all quieted down after what has been an unreal week. When you consider the Man City game, the Chelsea game, the Liverpool game, and we're walking away from that hellish run actually higher up in the league. I mean, Jay, is this potentially, could we be looking back at this week if we do stay up as the turning point, as absolutely pivotal and a bit of a famous week in recent Leeds United history?
100%. If we finish outside of the bottom three, we will look back at the Man City second half as the catalyst that changed the season, I think. And then obviously the subsequent results that came on the back of that, especially the Chelsea game. You know, getting that win was massive after not winning in however many games it were, and one win in 7 or 8 or whatever else that were as well. So I think that's it definitely be something that we'd look back on. And I've got to say, I'm surprised that we've made through this week just gone with Daniel Farke still at the helm. Whether I think that was the right thing or not, you know, my opinion's being made quite clear on it. I'm surprised that we've got to the end of this week with him intact, because I thought that I just didn't see us beating Chelsea first off, and we came out and blew them away. And then we obviously backed that up with at least something against Liverpool. Again, the performance was good. And Farke has kind of quietened down enough of the naysayers that the noise didn't get too loud, that it forced the ownership into action, into movement. So
yeah, and I think probably some credit, you know, obviously we don't know how it's going to turn up, but you know, they stuck by Farke in what was a difficult run. They knew the games that was upcoming. There'd possibly be some other owners of clubs that would have pulled the trigger, I think, in those circumstances. They've stuck by him, and hopefully they get their rewards with survival. And also, I think, you know, there's been some chat this week about, you know, January transfer window right around the corner, and you know, I mean, what are we, 20 odd days or something away from the January transfer window, and you kind of, I mean, at this point, if you were going to pull that trigger, you want someone in almost this stage to kind of impact that transfer strategy going into January. It would feel as if, you know, if you get to January, and I mean, look at Marsh. I mean, we kept Marsh and then we sacked him first game after the January transfer window closing. You're almost kind of scratching it, going, right, okay, so what happens next? So Farke's probably going to have a big say, you know, in the January transfer window, which is absolutely right, and as it should be. But it'll be interesting because there's all sorts of possibilities with it now. I mean, positionally, what are we going to go for? You know, with this new 3-5-2, it presents its, you know, a new set of questions. It's going to be interesting to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I think first off, I mean, I'd just be dumbfounded to find a fan that realistically thought that we were going to be on more than 15 points after these 15 games that we've had. I mean, if anything, again, I've said this before, I think 15 points is overachieving. I genuinely do. Like, I think 10, 11 points around where Burnley is where you would expect most promoted sides to be sitting in and around. And at the minute, we're kind of curbing that trend. The problem that Leeds fans have got is that they're seeing Sunderland doing what Sunderland are doing. I genuinely think that is the biggest kind of head turner for Leeds fans, and it's causing real problems for them to be able to kind of just compartmentalise what's going on this season and what our expectations are. You know, we've shown ourselves to be extremely competitive at home. like extremely competitive. We've lost against Villa and Spurs by 1 goal in both games after, really being in both games as well, taking the lead against Villa. I mean, Villa the weekend were second, 3 points off Arsenal, and still 3 points off Arsenal, sit third now after the game's kind of played out. They're a top side, they're in real rich vein of form, and we limited them to very, very little, just the quality told over the 90 minutes. So like, what were fans expecting? And these fans that were like over the last week, before the last week, have been banging on about Daniel Farke's statistically the worst manager in the Premier League. He's not the worst manager in the Premier League, though, is he? He's not been the worst ever Premier League manager. And they'll just say, well, statistically he is. Yeah, but you've got to apply some context. I don't care about what he did at Norwich. I really don't. It doesn't even enter my mind when I'm analysing what Daniel Farke is about. I look at the 2 seasons in the Championship, and at worst case, that makes him the 21st best manager in the country, right? That's not a bad position to be in. It's not a bad manager to go for. I mean, our Championship is arguably more competitive than Ligue 1, the Bundesliga, apart from Bayern Munich. It's a top league is the Championship. So, this guy and what he's achieved at Leeds over the 2 seasons, and now what he achieves in the Premier League is good. Yeah. Like, people really struggle to just put that out there. It's the reality. The 15 points from 15 games this season is good. It's decent. So, and I think, just coming to your final point, I think we are far better placed going into January with Daniel Farke and calm and understanding of what we need, rather than the upheaval of a new manager coming in, settling, understanding his best formation, his best players, who's he going to get out of who, what's he going to get out of who and where. A new manager comes in and maybe wants to play Ethan Ampadu at centre back, and maybe sees Tanaka as a 10, and imagine a manager comes in and wants to play Brendan Aronson as an 8. All these kind of stirring up, though. They want to play James Justin at left back instead of Gabby, and all these kind of things can potentially happen. And then you're asking them, right, okay, you've got 3 weeks, not even that, 2 weeks to get ready for a January transfer window, and tell me what you want. Like, we're a better place with the manager that we've got in place, I think, for January. January is going to be super interesting for Leeds. Super interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Sporting, I'm glad the ownership didn't listen to the negative narrative. Rich, thanks for your comment. Not looking forward to Brentford, but Palace are yet to win on the back of a European game, and Sunderland missing a few for AFCON. Hopefully 2 wins there. Yeah, we'll get to a proper Brentford preview in a little bit as well. I think it's fascinating. I think what I've kind of not come to realise, and I think probably Bielsa skewed this a little bit, but I think we have this idea of like the super coach that can come in and make average players much better. And I think possibly we're misguided as Leeds fans, thinking there's someone who can come in and wave a magic wand over these players. And we've talked about this, and the more I watch it, the more I'm convinced of that, because I really look back at this week and think there's nothing else. There's no stone that's been left unturned in terms of what you can do. I mean, even, the Liverpool game, Nonto and Aronson coming on and having an impact, and the way they were deployed. I think I don't think there's a magic person that comes in and, suddenly plays Nonto on the left and Nonto bangs in 15 goals. I'm kind of more convinced about that. And when you see other teams and how they operate, I mean, I was listening to a podcast on The Athletic yesterday, and they were talking about how there's been less sackings than ever. December's normally, a mad month for sackings, but you look at how close the league is. I mean, we're on 15 points. And if you look at Brighton, who are in 8th, or even going up to Everton in 7th, they're on 24 points. It's 9 points covering, 12 or 13 places. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's so tightly, it's such a close Premier League this season. I think you bang on as well. I think we're not, on 10 or 11 points at this stage of the season, where if you look at the squad, you'd probably argue that's where the level's at. I mean, I've got to feel for Wolves fans a little bit. I mean, 2 points, Jay, after 15 games. They're a kind of a warning from the future. If you do stay up and you do stabilise, you can't take anything for granted. They were in Europe back to back under Nuno, 7th place finishers, and they've just plummeted. They've sold their best players this summer. They've not replaced them with quality. That's how easily and quickly it can go wrong in the Premier League.
And it's unforgiving. You know, like that is brutal. You know, and if you're not good enough, if you haven't got a manager that knows what he's doing, if you haven't got a set of players that creates a squad that can work around a tactic and a structure, that's what you get. I mean, you can be in a situation where if you're not good enough in the Premier League, you end up on 2 points after 15 games, guys, not a single win. You know, so when we're complaining, and I'm not complaining, I'm saying we as a general, fan base, about being on 15 points after 15 games, you need to screw your head back on. Like, you genuinely need to screw your head back on. I mean, talk about man management, and again, giving Daniel Farke the flowers. You know, on the back of the run going into the Man City game, it'd be well within a group of players' rights to start worrying, stressing. You've mentioned it before. You know, what happens when this form kind of starts to bleed into the home form, and I hear it. I absolutely hear that kind of line of questioning. We saw the character that this team's got, and we saw the man management that Daniel Farke is capable of in that second half against Man City, and then go on the back of conceding in the 92nd minute against Man City and losing that game on the back of coming back into it. They turned up against Chelsea and blew them off the park. That's not a team that's not got character and resolve, and it's also not a team that's led by a bad manager. It's not, because if it were, they would have thrown that. Same as against Liverpool. You know, once we go back to 3-2, they don't. If they're not fully behind the manager and the manager's terrible at man managing, they just think, sack this. Trust me, they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think as well, I think Farke deserved a little bit more attention from the wider football world this week and pundits. I didn't feel like I heard too much praise for what he's done and the hurdles he's had to jump over, because I think he was an easy pick as one of the first managers that'll get sacked this season. Like I say, everyone bangs on about the Norwich record and everything like that. And it would have been nice this week, I think, to see him, get some more flowers basically from the wider. I feel like it was almost like, it's Chelsea's problems and it's Liverpool's problems and Man City aren't proper, rather than, let's consider what Farke has actually done and how he's implemented this.
I couldn't agree more, mate. I think that especially was prominent against Liverpool. You know, Liverpool have obviously got the problems off the pitch and it's widespread, and the Salah interview kind of dominated everything on the back of the Leeds game. But there was a lot that Daniel Farke deserves credit for going into that game, during that game, and at the end of that game, and he basically didn't get any of it. The way that I see the situation with the bigger scale of the media with Daniel Farke is that he needs to keep on riding this season out. He will kind of quash all of the Norwich conversation for good if he's able to keep his job and keep Leeds in the Premier League. I genuinely, even if he finishes 17th, I think he will then get enough credit to say, you know what, he didn't have the capabilities with the players back at Norwich. He's proven himself to be a manager that can adapt, change, and keep a team in the Premier League. Because, last 2 seasons, all 6 have gone straight back down. This season, we're in with a fairly good chance of seeing at least 2 stay up. Yeah. And that would be a cosmic kind of shift that Daniel Farke will have been partly responsible for creating. So, yeah, I think that's where he'll get the credit, but there's a long way to go yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting at the weekend as well. So it's another trip to London against Brentford. Leeds have just won of the last 12 away league games against Brentford, but we all remember that last day survival game, the Rafinha game, beating them 2-1 to preserve their Premier League status. I mean, if we flash back to that day, Jay, I mean, Jesus, that game, I mean, honestly, one of those watching it, you were just you couldn't quite believe it, could you? Because I think Gellert scores and that gets ruled out.
Yeah.
They get a stupid sending off. Did they get 2 men sent off?
They ended up with 9 players, yeah. Sergi Canos got sent off.
We could win, wasn't it? We had to,
I mean, I was convinced going into that game that we were going to lose. I didn't see any world in which we were going to stay up that day. Burnley had Newcastle at home, and I kind of felt like Newcastle would do the job there, and they did end up doing that. But I just didn't see a world in which we'd win. But we were quite good that day on the whole. We did score that early goal. Then Rafinha gets the penalty from an unreal David Raya mistake on it. If you remember, he basically passes it to Rafinha, and Rafinha takes a touch, and then Raya takes him out. And he does his slow stutter run up and sticks it in top corner. I sometimes just watch back at Rafinha highlights and I can't believe I cannot believe that he ever played for us, if I'm honest. It's funny, because as you know, I do have a few back and forths on Twitter from time to time.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that you can't put anything online without it potentially coming back to bite you at some point. But somebody that I was having a back and forth with the other week found a post that I'd posted in the February of that season. So that's how long ago it is, 3 years ago. Rafinha was in a bit of bad form, and I said there's a question for Rafinha to be dropped at the minute. And obviously I was completely wrong. It was context at the time, he was playing terribly, but I was completely wrong. But it just goes to show you how, especially when you put yourself out there like we do online, how things can come back up to pull you. Rafinha was just sensational to watch.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I because obviously he's absolutely smashing it at Barcelona. I mean, he's come back into the team, and no doubt they've picked up. There were the pictures of him kind of giving like a pep talk to Hansi Flick, the coach, there a couple of weeks ago when he returned. And I think, it's kind of pinched me territory. I'm like, he played for us. What? I can't quite. You watch the quality. I mean. It's like the Everton goal, in the second season when it comes to him on edge of box, it just arrows it in. And you're just like, he was absolutely ridiculous, and I can't believe he played for us.
But best player to ever play for us, do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of just pure talent and the whole package, I can't think anyone that tops him and can go right the way back for that. You might argue, historically, someone like John Charles, who obviously went and smashed it in Italy, but just in terms of pure ability and what he could do, it absolutely staggering. And there's probably another dimension out there, Jay, where we didn't kind of falter that second season, and he signed a new contract and led us to glory or something. I don't know, but. I mean, that's kind of, that's the thing, isn't it, as well? I remember when we got Sinisterra and we were almost, it was like we needed that Rafinha replacement. And coming to the Premier League this time, that you always have it in the back of the mind, don't you, now? Like, who's going to be the next Rafinha? Who's going to be that next special talent? And obviously Pajau, we were all kind of crossing his fingers that he'd walk in. Whether he'd be at that level, I don't know. But can't believe he ever played for us, Jay, to be honest.
It was a joy. It was a joy. Just every time you watched him, you just knew something exciting was going to happen. I know that we're just having a reminiscent moment out of nowhere. The moment that really sticks in my mind was when he absolutely mullers Gary Cahill playing against Palace, and he does that. I don't even know what you call it. It's like a last better, and he twists him inside out, and he obviously gets wiped out, but it was just a joy. He was such a fun player to watch, and not only were he a fun player to watch, but he was so hardworking. His commitment levels were just, and that's why he's such a top player, because he's got the talent, but he's also got the work ethic and the desire that some top players don't have. Cristiano Ronaldo has it, Lionel Messi has it. Some of the elite players have it. Some don't. Like I'd probably put like a Gaza into that kind of bracket where he has all the talent in the world, but maybe not the mindset and the motivation and the desire. Rafinha just had it all. I think it's difficult when you kind of compare over generations. You could look at Bremner, Lorimer, Eddie Gray. I know some of the fans that were back when saw Eddie Gray would say that Eddie Gray were every bit as good as Rafinha. Now, you can't make that same comparison because of the times that Rafinha is obviously a far better technically gifted player, but in terms of the comparison against what he was playing at, Eddie Gray was maybe the same level. But it's certainly in my lifetime, since the day I was born in 1990, Rafinha is without a doubt the best player that's ever pulled on a Leeds shirt for me.
Yeah, and just before we move on, because I do love reminiscing about Rafinha, I mean, to see what he's achieved afterward as well, Jay, because I always thought, from a Barcelona perspective, for them, it wouldn't have felt like, we're signing a superstar like, Ronaldinho or something. He's coming from Leeds. It's like, okay, let's see what this guy does. And obviously wins the league for Barcelona his first year, and then Xavi had a lot of difficulties. But since Hansi Flick's come in, I mean, Rafinha's, the level he's been at, Ballon d'Or contender, arguably should have won it. And I think he's got that leadership at Barcelona as well. He's so influential to them. Obviously, they've got stars with Lamine Yamal, and they've got Pedri, and they've got all these, Lewandowski. But I honestly think Rafinha's the linchpin for them.
Yeah. Well, he's captained them as well, hasn't he? For a fair chunk of time too. I agree with you. I think again, it's having the balance of that flair with the determination, the mentality. Like, he is a leader. You saw it at Leeds. You saw even with him, because he was still fairly young at that time, 23, I think, when he signed for Leeds. He still showed leadership qualities. Didn't even speak the language when he first came here. So like, it's just a joy, mate. Just a joy. I will always look back fondly at that. Obviously, I'll look back fondly at that period of time. But for me, he just stands head and shoulders above everyone. I'm so proud of watching him go on.
That's what it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's that feeling, isn't it?
I'm part of us with him when he's successful at Barca. I mean, if he'd have won the Ballon d'Or, I mean, what a moment. And he did deserve it for me. I think he deserved it more than Dembele, personally. I think the only other shout would have been Vitinha at PSG. And I think players like that don't often win the Ballon d'Or. It tends to be a little bit more attacking. I think that's why Dembele got it over Rafinha, because Dembele is just a little bit more silky, and he obviously won the Champions League as well. So
I bet if Barcelona had won it, it'd have probably been Rafinha's. Do you remember before the playoff final, and he gave a little video, didn't he? Sent a little video in, and it was on the thing. Like, I think that's what helps as well. I feel like there's a really good feeling that he still has towards Leeds, and because Leeds kind of put him on the map and obviously made it into the Brazil national squad whilst he was here. And it's he
posted something the other day, didn't he? I can't remember what game it was before, either Chelsea or Liverpool, but he posted that he were watching the game basically and like imagining on together kind of thing. I tell you, there's two moments that stick before we do move on, because we're doing a lot of reminiscing over Rafinha. But the two moments in that Brentford game, obviously other than the goal, was him being in with the fans, with his girlfriend, up on the shoulders of all the fans after the game. That's because you can't do that nowadays as players, because there's too much risk attached. Yet he had such kind of feeling with the Leeds fans that it was in no jeopardy, and that really tells you so much. How much we loved him and felt for him, and he felt for us. And then the walking across the pitch on his knees. Like, to me, that doesn't mean anything because I'm not religious, like, and that's not the way that my belief structure is. But I know what that means to him.
Yeah.
I know that going into that game, he prayed for that in a way that he had to kind of then provide a sacrifice. And he then, on his knees, crawled across the Brentford pitch in kind of repentance of thanks to being able to achieve what he'd achieved and keeping. And all it was Leeds finishing 17th instead of 18th.
Made his transfer harder as well, more complicated for himself, as well. The fact that he kept us, if he'd got relegated, they'd have got him for about a snip. And
20 million off of it, and with the double and a bit more, it was a complicated deal with Barcelona because their financial situation. It made it harder, and he'd have known that. Let's not kid ourselves. He'd have known that the Barcelona move was probably already done at that point. So just what a guy, man! I'd love to meet him.
I know. For a final thing from Rafinha as well, Glenn mentions it. I think I remember Rafinha shouting at Marsh who wanted to be defensive and safe to get us up the pitch. Well, we remember him on throw-ins, don't we, under Marsh? We remember that.
We don't do that.
Remember that debacle, don't we? Jesse Marsh, love it. So back to the weekend's game then, and a word on Brentford, Jay, who I think themselves have defied the odds, and I think you've got to credit the work and how they're run as a football club. We know how successful they've been through the years relative to who they are and their history. I mean, to lose your manager Thomas Frank, to lose your captain Norgard, to lose Wissa and Buemo, I think a lot of people thought, Brentford are going to be up against it this season. And look, they're only on 19 points. It's not impossible that they end up getting relegated. But I think they've done a lot better than a lot of people thought they would, probably including me and you as well. At the start, so you thought Keith Andrews, think, what? This is a recipe for disaster. But fair play, they've got that continuity, and they're digging in.
Well, there's a lot to be said about continuity. He was in the building beforehand anyway. He obviously had a level of respect with the players. I think he deserves a lot of credit. I don't like him in the slightest. I hate him.
We remember the Sky days, don't we?
Yeah, I don't like him at all. But you can only analyse the situation as you find it in, and he's had a fairly decent start. I've watched him a few times this season. Watched him on the opening day against Forest, and I thought, I'm sure it was against Forest away, and I thought, oh yeah, we were right, they were terrible. But then he's really kind of turned them around. He's got some good results. The levels of performances have always looked pretty strong. So it's kind of shut the naysayers up, really. And you're right, they still could be dragged into it. Brentford, I think, have been in and around the flirty positions, like 5 or 6 points clear of those that are really in trouble.
Yeah.
For the last 3 or 4 years, they've kind of been there. And then I think they had one season, maybe last season, where they finished like 8th, 9th or whatever. But I still think they'll be flirting in and around it, but they have got quality within that side. And they've been able to replace the key area of the pitch in the 9 with the lad that they've got up there that's had a really good Igor in there, that's had a good start to the season. So it's always going to be tough. It's always going to be tough going to Brentford. They just have a style and a system and a kind of philosophy and everything that kind of will cause us problems, I think. But they're there to be got at, and if we can win at the weekend, we really do bring them in. I saw a comment of it's gone a bit further up now that did make me laugh a little bit. Like Palace, we play Palace after that, and they're playing in Europe, and then we play Sunderland, who have got AFCON, so maybe 2 wins there. Like getting back-to-back wins in the Premier League is going to be almost non-existent for a team like Leeds and around this area of the pitch. I go into the Brentford game already very, 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 very happy with the point. Very happy. If we can get away with it with a point, I'm delighted. We need to start turning some of the losses into points away from home. Never mind just trying to get wins, and we just try and pick up 1 or 2 here or there where they maybe fall into his lap a little bit, and we make the most of it at home. And that includes Sunderland away as well. Like I think Sunderland away, I think that's going to be a really tough game. I know I'm skipping past the Brentford one a bit here, but yeah, it's just give us anything away from home right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was interesting because I was looking at a bit of kind of fan opinion on Brentford, and one of their kind of negatives, I suppose, is the away form. But, like we said, I think that's a lot of Premier League teams, isn't it, the away form? I mean, just to put in kind of context, Leeds has run, particularly in London. So Leeds have lost their last 9 Premier League games in London, with the last victory that was at Brentford we talked about. It's their second longest losing run in the capital in the top flight after a 12-game streak between March 1925 and September 1930. So what is this London thing, Jay? Do we believe it exists? I mean, is it just a case of, look, these are just difficult games, especially the Premier League. I think it's, when you're in the Premier League going to London. But, I mean, is route to this? Is it preparation? Really bloody nice to actually win a game there again, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, you went a bit jargony there, but I think I got the gist of it. I think that's okay. I think we were seconds away in an own goal away at Fulham from breaking that. So I don't really take anything because it's London. I think in the Premier League, especially, I think what you're talking about is there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League that are from London. You got Arsenal, you got Chelsea, you got Spurs. Pretty much any established team down there. Who else you've got? I mean, Brentford, I think it's kind of London, I guess, but established. Fulham, established. Amongst others, like it's not an easy place to go because of the level of teams that you've got. And then in the Championship? We're talking QPR. I know we never really travelled particularly well to QPR. Can't think of any. Millwall, I guess. Yeah. We travelled all right to Millwall fairly recently. I think we lost last season, but season before we won. So I don't really buy into it. I just think it's away is difficult anyway, and then the teams in that area of the country are also difficult.
Yeah,
is that
fair? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So. Look, I mean, what is it this season? We played 7 away games, won 1, lost 6. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that the record, I think?
Yeah.
That just shows you, it doesn't matter where the team is, it's tough. We lost to Burnley, who were crap. So, give me a point, mate, and let me get back to Ellen Road, because I truly believe Crystal Palace coming to Ellen Road, as good as they are, I think we can win that game. I just think it's a different kettle of fish at Ellen Road.
100% under the lights as well, that one, isn't it, as well? Yeah. So, you'd back us to perform there. And do you know what? Weirdly, this is like one of those, doesn't make logical sense. It's very kind of superstitious, but the fact that it's not a 2:00 kickoff and it's the 4:30 kickoff in my mind, how it works, I feel better about that. I almost feel like it gives us more of a chance. And I can't put my finger on why. I do not like 2:00 kickoffs anyway. But it's one of those daft things where I'm like, I'm a bit more encouraged the fact that it's the 4:30 kickoff. I don't know why, but I can't explain it. But just in my gut, I'm just like, I fancy that a bit more than a 2:00 one.
Make sure whatever voodoo you need to do to calm your superstitions on Sunday morning, you do them. I don't know. I know people. Yeah,
no, the away shirt that I bought, I can't wear that on match days because it's cursed. I'm telling you,
it's cursed. I know people do feel certain ways about certain kickoff times. I think 2:00 on a Sunday's been mentioned before. 12:00. We've had this conversation as Leeds fans before over the years. We went 7 games without winning a 12:00 kickoff or something at one point in the championship. It's like, come on now, like you're not telling me that it's making a difference. I remember me and you had this conversation though, Browney. And I remember sitting here saying to you, come on, do we really think that like Daniel Farke not sending the boys to bed 2 hours earlier on a Friday is making difference to whether we win at 12:00 on a Saturday? Like, or they have to get up and eat their Cheerios like an hour earlier. Like, come on now, it's just coincidence. Like,
you can't do it.
yeah, it's just a nonsense to me. I just think it's just the way that it kind of falls sometimes. Is that that you're gonna lose games, and it just so happens that they fall on them times where you then have a change of kickoff or whatever. But I don't like playing late on a Sunday because you then got to wait all weekend for it, and if it kind of foreshadow ruins your weekend because like you kind of know it's going to potentially end in this disappointment. So yeah, I struggle. I prefer to play on Friday night, mate.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then if you get a good result, you're absolutely buzzing, then, aren't you?
That's it.
Yeah. Well, this is it, and it is going to be fascinating to see what we do because I mean, if we could get a point, Jay, or even get a win, I mean, it will feel incredible, won't it? Obviously, because that'll be the third game on the trot where we've got something from. And just helps so much. But at the same time, I'm kind of mentally not preparing myself for a loss, but just trying to keep the perspective of if we lose that, which is more than, they're heavy, not heavy, but they're certainly favourites for the game in my mind. Maybe heavily, actually. But not worrying about it. Right, okay, lose to Brentford, right, put it to bed, Palace. And I think what I don't want to see, and I mentioned it last week, I touched on it a bit, is let's not have the meltdown if we lose it. Let's not have the, Farke out and not, it's just unnecessary. Like, just look at how it can be. Wait for your home games, basically.
No, you couldn't be more right, mate. But there will be a meltdown. There will, because the fans for me now that have shown their colours with Farke have simply made it personal. I've spoke about it quite a lot this week. It's personal. They just don't like him. They now want to be proven right over the success of Leeds United. That's how I see it. You won't convince me otherwise. If you are still, after the week that we've just had, Farke out, you don't understand the landscape of the Premier League for first and where we are within it, and you have just got a personal agenda against Daniel Farke. It's as simple as that. That you can have issues with him making substitutions at a certain time or certain tactical stuff that he does, but you cannot argue the fact that he has been successful in the Premier League so far this season. 15 points from 15 games for Leeds, given the 3 games that we've just had, is a really good return. We're in and around a battle to stay up, and I've said this before as well, but the fan base really struggle having the stomach for a relegation battle. They just expect us to be clear and safe, and that's never how it's going to look this season. And again, Sunderland are causing part of the problem for the fan base because they can't, like, if Sunderland and Burnley were below us and we were the best of the 3, I really, really do believe that Leeds fans would be a lot more of the position of we're actually doing better than expected here, but they can't. They just cannot do it in the mind. So, I think anything that we could follow this up with would be great. A good performance in a 3-5-2 would almost be enough for me, because I think the away performances have been so poor. Stretching back now to Burnley, Burnley were poor. Brighton, Forest were poor after that. I'm trying to think what game was after Wolves. I think we beat Wolves and then did we lose to Fulham, or were it the other way around? I can't remember. But other way around. Yeah. So Fulham and Wolves back to back, I think were okay away performances, but the long and short is the away performances have been poor. They've been poor, and they need to be better. Now, if they can be, in my opinion, and again, some will say that I've got a weak mentality, but I just see it as I understand where we are. If I can see a better performance, one that gives me the hope that going away from home we can pick up points, but we lose at the weekend, I'd be all right with that. I can't lie, because I think it's a big shift.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I really want to see us, punch a little bit more away from home. What is that then, Jay? Why are we able to have these super competitive home games where we're going up against the best teams and in Chelsea's case beating them, but then we went away to Forest and we were so meek and mild? What's happening? Because I heard something interesting about Unai Emery. They were talking about Villa's improvement, and they've got two very different mindsets. When they're at Villa Park and it's on the front foot and they're aggressive, whereas away from home they try and kind of kill the atmosphere a little bit. They try and slow the tempo down. They try and play themselves into the game. Is that something similar with Leeds? Is it the approach that's kind of dictating this? I mean, what in 9 times out of 10 cases in the Premier League, other than Wolves, a really good team at home, and it's just a different kind of expectations. It's a different atmosphere and a challenge.
Home form is very, very real, and I think it applies even more so in the Premier League because the quality difference between the two teams gets breached. You know what I mean? Like you have such a gap to make up that you can genuinely make a fortress of your home ground. Your mentality is different. Your confidence is different. You've got, Ellen Road, you've got 36,000 people screaming and baying for you to do well. It can make human beings do incredible things, so it is very, very real. And I think away from home, what you do is, Unai Emery can set up with a different approach away from home with the mentality of killing the atmosphere and killing the game. Leeds go away from home with less quality players and try and do that against better opposition players that have that extra motivation and push behind them. They concede goals. That's the problem. Because you try and do what Villa did at Ellen Road, and Villa still conceded to us, by the way, and they're a far better team than us. They still conceded to us in that period of the game, but they kept the game under control. And then they used their substitutions, they used their better quality to turn the game around in the second half. Because the game's not won when you 1-0 up. It's won after 90 minutes as long as you're in front. So that you can quite often go behind in a game, especially away from home, and turn it around if you have the right mentality and the quality. Leeds trying to do that away from home. We did it against Forest. But then we got the goal, and instantly on the back of getting that goal, we go and throw the game away. If we have the quality to be able to sit in and really hold them off for 20 minutes, it turns the City ground into a completely different atmosphere. So it's really, really, really tricky. It's really difficult to do. I think the 3-5-2 might be able to help with that a bit. But I also think if we've not got Metro and Calvert-Lewin up front, it's going to leave us really vulnerable because we're going to be giving the ball back a lot. You're going to start seeing games where away from home, if we play with the 3-5-2, where we have 20% possession, 15% possession, and you're just waiting to concede. That's my worry. And it's going to be, because I think he'll go with it at the weekend. I think he will stick with the 3-5-2. I think, because on the back of the Liverpool result, we actually changed formations and played really well second half. So maybe he goes back. But I think he will be interested to see how we defensively can compete and then build from there at the weekend. So we'll see.
Yeah, indeed. Just mentioned Sport Engineer. Football's 12th man. We have the fan and sport at home. Ellen Road is fortress. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And the Metro injury, it's a shame, isn't it? Because I agree. I think if you were sticking him and Calvert-Lewin, a shout out for Calvert-Lewin, by the way, who, I just think I think he's got the potential this season to become a bit of an icon at this club. I think the way he's kind of leading the line and just the whole presence that he has and what he's brought, and now he's adding the goals. I mean, that would the stick used to beat him with, but he's adding the goals. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do, Jay. I mean, I've got reservations about if you go with Okafor in that role again, because do you know my frustrations with Okafor? I keep banging on about it, and I'm like a broken record, but do you know when you see someone who's got so much talent and they just don't seem to kind of get the most from it, or even kind of 60 or 70%. I feel a little bit like that with Okafor. I just think there's more to come from someone like that. So I'm far more frustrated with someone like that than I am Brendan. You know, where you see the limitations. You know, it's like I'm more frustrated at someone super talented who, for whatever reason, isn't, you know, kind of living up to it, or even living up to 75% of it. So I'd be a bit worried if we do the 3-5-2 and he's that second one again. Now, I'd love to be proven wrong, and I think if he can, you know, reach that level or you know, achieve a bit more, you know, he's clearly got the talent. You know, he can do things that a lot of the other members of the squad can't do. But it's about being consistent. It's about having the intensity. And look, I appreciate he's gone to a different league, but I do think there's question marks. If you look at his career, you know, he's fallen out with a Swiss coach. He's been benched at various times. I think there is, you know, question marks about him. And it'd just be great to see him kind of step up a little bit more. So it'll be a conundrum, won't it, Jay, if you do it, because other than Okafor in that role, I mean, you're then going to Peru, and we know Peru can't do any of that kind of stuff that you need in that role.
Can I put a shout out there? I don't know whether he'd do this or not, and I know some fans will lose their mind with this, but there's an avenue to put Brendan in there.
Yeah,
there really is. You know, 3-5-2
ball wins kind of thing.
Yeah. You know he's got the stamina. You know he's got the work rate. You know he's going to be buzzing around away from home. If you have Calvert-Lewin looking for them flick-ons, and then because what Brendan will do is he will get in and around the second ball. Yeah. Whereas Okafor, too often in his performance up there, he was kind of just stood around laboured. It wasn't anywhere near the action. He was kind of just floating. I think Brendan would at least give you that. The problem with Brendan is he's not going to have the physical presence of the ball's going up there. So if the ball does go towards him rather than Calvert-Lewin, at least Okafor 6'4" still, or whatever he is. You know what I mean? He's a big lad. So I don't think he's that tall, but he's tall, isn't he? He's not going to be, and he's also not going to be the finisher that Metcher or Okafor would be either. So you do have limitations with that. But I do think away from home, it could be quite a functional piece of to start the game. And then you look at Okafor at 60 minutes, you look at Nonto at 60 minutes, and the game can change. Again, this is what a lot of fans like really kind of negate looking at when they see Brendan Aronson start the game. Sometimes a Brendan Aronson starting the game is to get you to the 60th minute, still in the game, at 0-0, maybe only 1-0 down, maybe even in front, and then you bring on the better players that can change the game, because it's a game of chess, isn't it? You don't have to just win the game in the first 30-40 minutes. So we've seen that with Okafor, and I do hate saying I told you so, but I also say I love saying I told you so as well. Like I'm a bit but that performance from Okafor in that position didn't surprise me at all. No. And I think even against lesser opposition, he will look the same in that position. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. In terms of elsewhere on the pitch, midfield, then are you bringing Tanaka back in? Are you starting with Gruev? What would be your preference there? Because that's probably, I mean, the back three picks itself. You know, this is, you know, everyone being fit. The wing backs pick themselves. You're probably just looking at that midfield where the next switch up could be.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one again. Away from home, could you maybe go with Gruev in there? And you know, again, exactly the same conversation that we've just had. You bring Tanaka on at 60 and he changes the game and wins you the game. Yeah, maybe. There's definitely a question for it, but I think given how good Tanaka's been over the last two games, I think he probably will have earned a start if he's fully fit and raring to go. And I'd say the same for Anton Stack as well. Anton Stack, you know, like I've been a bit of a critic of him. I'm really excited when we signed him. His start to the season was excellent, and then he really, really dropped off. And I think a lot of it was down to the role and just getting used to the system and the style. But I think
he had the injury as well, didn't he? Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. He did have like a niggle, didn't he? That was going on.
He had a rib injury, didn't he?
Yeah. So you don't wonder if that limited him.
Then he had the concussion. Maybe the concussion kind of gave him a week off to fully recover, which, you know, could have actually been useful, silver lining kind of thing. But I thought he was unreal against Liverpool. There were certain content creators that were saying he weren't very good, and he was the worst of the midfield. I'm like, you do not understand football, mate. But he was sensational. I mean, he was everywhere. He honestly was running for days. Separation work, breaking up play. Then he was taking the ball back the other way as well, running with purpose, real direction. When he runs in a straight line, it's a real problem. It's when he starts getting into twisting and turning that he's a bit limited on the dribbling front. But when he runs in a straight line, he's fast and he's a big unit. Obviously gets his goal with quality as well, because he has to take it into a bit of space and then bring it back the opposite way. I just thought it was excellent. So yeah, that the midfield is so vital for us, whether it's Tanaka, Stack, Ampadu, Longstaff when he's back, and Gruev. They can really make that difference because they're so industrial. There's limitations in quality at times, but they are so industrial that they can bridge that gap.
Yeah, and I think that's bang on. I think interesting with Ampadu as well, because I feel like if he steps up his away performance, because I think there's been a very kind of bit of a disparity between Ampadu at home and Ampadu away.
He needs to play well away from home. He needs to start turning up away from home, because he's been brilliant at home, mate. But away from home, he has been really poor. That's a fact.
Yeah, because you feel like if you get that Ampadu performance, you're in such a better position and a better shout. I mean, at times, Chelsea, where he's driving through the middle, he looks elite, doesn't he? When you see him doing that, this guy can exist on this level. And I agree about Stack as well. I thought when I was watching Stack at the weekend, and like his finish is clever, and I just thought he exists in this kind of level. He's in that stratosphere, his Stack. I thought he were absolutely superb.
X Factor is probably the wrong word, but we've said it a few times with Okafor. Anton Stack has that capability to be of a better level than where we are. The 16th to 18th conversation. He has more about him to take him to that next level, whereas some of the others probably have got limitations that will cap them here. Sean Longstaff as an example. He's never going to be much better than a team that finishes 15th. Not to start week in, week out anyway. It could make part of a squad, right? And you could maybe make this argument about others within the squad. Pascal Stroike certainly could. Dan James, Willie Nonto, there's Brendan Aronson. There's several others that you could make that accusation about in this squad. Anton Stack is one of maybe two or three that you think they can step up. Joe Rodon, I would say, is another one. He wouldn't look out of place in any team in between 6th and 12th. He wouldn't look out of place at all. You could drop Joe Rodon into Manchester United and he would improve their backline, as an example. And I think Stack is there as well. You do see it.
Yeah, indeed. Just before I wrap up then, Jay, prediction for Sunday against Brentford. What's your heart saying? What's your head saying?
my head. Okay, my heart is saying we can win this game. My heart is genuinely saying that there's a chance where we can win this game, and I'll be going into it with some hope that we might be able to get something from the game. If I had to put my house on it, I'd probably be saying 2-0 Brentford or 2-1 Brentford. I do think we're going to be better. And I think if we set up in the 3-5-2, I think that we'll look stronger for longer in the game. It's all about keeping the opposition out for a period of time. But if I had to put a bet on it, I would be saying probably 2-1 Brentford or 2-0 Brentford.
Yeah, Sporting agrees. Well, actually, it doesn't agree. Sorry, 2-1 Leeds. He's saying there. 4:30 kickoff changes it a little bit for me. Weirdly, head is still saying Brentford, but heart, I'm going Leeds. And I think it could be. It could be unreal to win again in London. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Just before
22-23.
That would be beautiful. Just before we finish, your predictions have been horrendous this season up until the Chelsea game, where you did come out and say, and I was very pessimistic in terms of like the result. I weren't pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic, but I was pessimistic. I thought we were going to lose a game. You think you're going to lose to good teams a lot, in the Prem. I said 2-0 Chelsea. You said 3-1 Leeds United, and you were spot on, mate. So I hope you're right. You keep on predicting.
Down over here. I've turned a corner, mate. This is it. Yeah, like Sporting says, I have a really good feeling. Well, see how me and Jay are feeling on our post-match review. So please do keep a check out for that. We will be back then. But thank you everyone who's commented. If you've not liked the video already, please do so. and we will see you again soon. Jay, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Thursdays. Bye-bye.